Welcome into Respect Her Game. Kasey Hudson back alongside Natalie, Noury. We've got a lot of WNBA headlines for you because playoff time is upon us. Not to mention is that, well, who doesn't love talking about awards, potential awardees, and so on and so forth. And then some fun segments coming down the pipeline where you get to learn more about Natalie and myself, what we would choose across all sorts of different sports in women's sports and men's sports. And then we will get to our Girl on Fire segment, which we love to try to make work in Respect Her Game. But as always, first and foremost, Natalie, how's it going? I know you had a late night, but you always make time for Respect Her Game, so we got to respect your time.
Oh, Kasey, it's great to be back with you. Yes, I just spent a few days in Minnesota, the old homeland for myself.
Yes.
So I was in the Twin Cities, visiting an old friend from Duluth, and I was asked to be a bridesmaid. So it was a very productive, special time. But great to be back. It was cool. I got to see, the Vikings practice facility, went past the Twin Stadium, all that kinds of stuff. So I think one of the coolest parts about traveling is when you get to see different fan bases around the country. Like you go there and you're like, it feels like just a normal city, but everyone's in purple and it's, Viking Central. So it was just really fun, really good time to get away, but excited to be back and hit the ground running with you, Kasey. How are you?
Absolutely. You're always running. I am good. I chose less running this past weekend, actually for the past week and a half, aside from our normal work schedule. But everything is good. I have no complaints on this Monday, which is rare for me. But you know what? There are some fans that have some complaints because imagine what you just painted the perfect picture of. Being able to enjoy different stadiums and see how different fan bases come to life. So it makes me think, imagine, because you and I are big sports fans and we have the luxury of being able to take our sports fandom into our career. A lot of fans are upset today because, well, ticket prices are starting to do what they do. Whenever something starts to get popular and eyes start to direct to, let's just say the WNBA per se, where it deserves more attention, all of a sudden the spike comes and it becomes an unaffordable potential. So right here you'll see New York Liberty. We've been priced out t-shirt, a statement tee for New York Liberty fans highlighting the issue of rising ticket prices. And it's one thing by economic standards to jump up 5%, jump up 10%. Sometimes you see this 100% drop or jump because it speaks to how many ticket sales are actually being produced. But 250%, that's how much ticket sales are being projected to jump up, making this, well, a very unaffordable luxury for fans who have supported the direction of the WNBA. How would you feel if you couldn't go watch your favorite team in a matter of like one season?
Yeah, I was kind of thinking long and hard about this because it's one of those things where it's like it's really discouraging, but it also kind of reflects like the secrets out. Like I hate to say this, but you think about like the real estate in New England. How many people want to move here? How many people want to purchase their first home in New England? All of a sudden the secret's out and you can't afford a property for less than $1 million. Same thing with the WNBA. So I guess it's one of those things where I completely respect the t-shirts. I completely respect the complaints. I completely resonate with that as well because I wouldn't want to spend that kind of money. But I guess it reflects that, there's talent, there's skill, there's something that, people want to invest in. And I feel like, unfortunately, this kind of stuff is unavoidable. I mean, don't you feel that way? Like, I don't know. I just feel like the secret's out here.
I feel like that's such a great way to put it because it's true. We've talked about getting more eyes on the WNBA, and I would say over the last three seasons, the jump has very much become significant and more, you're seeing more new fans come to the table and be interested. So the secret is out is a perfect way to put that. And the real estate aspect, it's very true, especially when you're a woman in your 30s and your parents are like, buy something. And I'm like, everything is unaffordable, parents. But it's true. It speaks to how much this talented group, all of these talented groups are finally getting the recognition that they deserve. Where I still kind of had a little bit of a teeter with it was the fact that you read about the different leagues, whether it's women's sports or men's sports, and basically how they do their revenue splits to make sure that they maintain ticket prices, but also players are getting, paid properly and merchandise is being produced at high levels. And the only reason I feel like fans are going to continue to kind of have an issue with this, especially on the WNBA side, regardless of the growth, is the fact of like the revenue split and how they manage things from that bigger perspective, there's still been a lot of issues with. So as they start to sort out, how they want to do those revenue splits, as they get more support from the NBA, and as they kind of get a better financial structure going on, hopefully ticket prices could potentially come down.
Right.
But in the meantime, it's just hard when things become higher in demand. The easiest and the fastest thing for any sports team or, economic system to do is to raise prices. So it's a double-edged sword because you love to see the popularity of it, but you need fans and seats. They have to be able to afford it.
Yeah. I know. I was trying to go online and research NBA season tickets, how much things are costing. I had so many conflicting numbers, and you know me, I'm not great at numbers. So I just went to Reddit and I decided to hear from the people themselves. And I found one about a year ago. Someone was talking about trying to get Knicks tickets. And of course they play at MSG. He said he got half season tickets last year. One of the prices offered was section 116, I think 2 seats for $17,000. That's half a season. So when you think about trying to purchase a full season, now again, this is just Reddit. This is someone who put their information online. But when I saw that number, I was like, so you're telling me 2 seats to the Knicks for half a season is $17,000? Me being the way I am, I'm like, I cannot justify spending that kind of money. So of course you don't want to discourage a fan base from coming to check you out. But at the same time, it's how teams got to make money, players got to get paid. But I don't know, you got to kind of make it a little more accessible for the fan base too. Otherwise people are going to get discouraged and find alternate ways to do it. And there's always loopholes, but just when you look at the numbers, I can't justify spending that kind of money. And I hope it doesn't discourage people from the WNBA, which is something that, they've worked so hard on getting, in front of people.
Yeah, 100%. I feel like it can be discouraging, and you make a good point to say, maybe basically get a little creative with it. We've heard across the board from different teams, from college football to NFL, NBA, MLB, all of the things where they create a lottery, and it's not for all tickets, but it's for certain sections or certain experiences. And yes, people are going to invest to be a part of lottery, but you're looking at a demographic that has the affordability, to invest in that. And then you're not taking away opportunities from other fans to kind of have those experiences or to be able to purchase, tickets at an affordable price, because I think it'll get to the point if it gets too obscene, because again, a 250% jump is beyond significant. Yeah. I feel like they could do better with kind of measuring that up in a digestible way, and also kind of getting creative in a sense of certain sections, certain experiences. That's where you find the fans that have the affordability to kind of spend the money. And again, you're getting something in return. So hopefully we'll see some adjustments come around with this, but I could say my pocketbook, no, I can't really be spending hundreds of dollars. Yeah, I budget to go to concerts that I want to go to, and that's once a year. So that's already a bit of a dance, and for me, all in the whole. But something that this won't do, thankfully, is take away from the credit where credit is due. Like you said, these amazing athletes. And with that being said, we have the awards that present themselves throughout the season. You always got to start with the MVP, which is looking to be announced around September 21st. And one of the top names when it comes to the MVP conversation is A'ja Wilson. Let's take a listen to her right here.
I don't even know. I feel like I'll have to say the analogy that Becky kind of told us. She was saying, lions wake up every morning and they know that they have to be faster than the gazelle just to eat. And the gazelle wakes up and knows that they got to be faster than the lion just to survive. And it's every single morning you have to wake up and say, I want to be better just to survive and just to eat. And so I think that is our analogy right now. It's just some days you could be a gazelle and you're just let's get through, just let's survive. Some days you can be a lion. It's time to eat. Let's go for it. So I think that's where we are today as the Aces, and is just figuring out who we want to be, where we want to be, but we're playing good basketball at the right time.
I loved that analogy so much. I actually just said it to Sophia this morning. I'm such a quote person. The right quote can fire me up just enough, but a lot of these are very short-lived for me. I'll be high energy on a quote for a couple of hours and then gas out. But the reference between the lion and the gazelle. That's my reality.
Yeah.
And which one is better to survive? Time to eat and a time to chase. And I feel like that speaks to her leadership style and why she has the ability to kind of lead a group or inspire the next era of the WNBA or inspire her team in totality. And that's what puts her in the MVP conversation, because there's some truth to it.
Yeah.
There's moments where like your focus is being the lion, your focus is going out and being hungry and getting the most of it. And then sometimes you really kind of have to have that work ethic where you just chase things down, where you persevere and continue to prevail, and being able to pivot, being agile in that sense, that makes you one of the best leaders, regardless of the numbers that you're putting up, but the way that you can inspire others. What did you make of that quote?
I mean, it's just like such a contagious mentality. If I were on a team, if I were an athlete, I mean, we have our own like production teams, that kind of thing. It's like whenever you have someone with that competitor mindset, it pushes you just a little more. So I feel like, for her to come up with that, and I mean, I'm also a quote person too. I was told early on in my career, no pressure, no diamonds, or the whole Lions don't lose opinions, don't lose sleep over the opinions of sheep, that kind of stuff. Yes. We got it. We got there one way or another. But yeah, I think it's like, I don't know. I like that kind of stuff. And I think that's just a competitor hungry mentality, to use her word. And I think that's one of the things that sets her apart too. I mean, of course, you can't be a professional athlete unless you're competitive. But if you take that mindset and kind of instill it into the rest of your group and inspire your group with the way you are, I mean, that's a leader by example. And I just think that's something that's really easy to feed off of. And I think, it's a kind of a definition of success right there.
Absolutely. I think that there's no better way to say it than how you just said it. It would potentially be her 4th MVP award if obtained. So fingers crossed. But like I said, she's the most popular name going around. Another name that's been in the mix, of course, is Napheesa Collier, which kind of similar in a sense to where like has many defensive awards, has the ability to lead her team, heavily relied on to lead her team in a number of instances. And she always speaks to kind of like how to still have a sharp mentality and stay inspired and stay hungry when you kind of have a number of these seasons where you're so close to success, you're so close to that championship, you're so close to what you want, and then it kind of fizzles out. And she's had the ability to continue to push her team to stay in it and to stay hungry. So of course, slight extra fandom there for me because of the Minnesota tie-in. Minnesota Lynx has been a team that I have paid the most attention to probably in the WNBA.
Yeah, I mean, I would say so too. It's just that was probably the first WNBA team that I ever like officially covered in my career. When I lived in Duluth, it was like the Minnesota Lynx. And at first I was like, who is that? What is that team? And then all of a sudden the name Paige Beckers starts bleeding into conversations. And just in Minnesota this past weekend, my friend's fiance, he's a huge hockey fan, huge football fan, and now he's a WNBA fan too. So he's got the TV on watching the Lynx at home. And I thought that was pretty cool to hear, because it's like, okay, it's a competitive sport. People want to tune in. So yeah, I would say that's a team that I've also followed quite a bit. And I think, I'd be lying if I didn't say that I was pulling for them a little bit, but you have to be unbiased here, have to give all of them credit. I think A'ja Wilson is certainly impressive with what she's been able to do. Collier missed a couple of games with an injury, but still has kind of been able to help her team in the process stay at the top of the standings. So it's going to be interesting to see who walks away with this one, Kasey.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, until we get the team in Boston, I think we're safe to kind of show a little love and some flowers around the WNBA as a whole. I don't know. You do mention a name that has come up a lot throughout the WNBA season, but more importantly now in the Rookie of the Year conversation, and that would be Paige Beckers. I mean, what else can one say about Paige Beckers? She was highly regarded. The hype was real. Nothing has fallen short in terms of what you expect from her delivery-wise, but I mean, like, does this just feel like a lock for Rookie of the Year?
Yeah, I mean, it kind of does. I feel like with what we were seeing online, it almost seems like a unanimous decision as well. Paige Beckers is certainly a name that would come to my mind, just with what she's been able to do this year. Her scoring average ranks 7th in league history among rookies. She's on track to become the second rookie to average 19 points and 5 assists in her debut season, alongside no one else than Caitlin Clark. So she has the credentials to kind of make the argument for her. I think she's got a bright future ahead of her too. Of course, Dallas has struggled a little bit, but I think I think she will be able to bring a lot of success to the program. And I'm excited to see what they put around her to help kind of spread that success out a little further. But yeah, I'm excited for her to be in this conversation for sure.
Yeah, I think they're definitely going to build around her. And you kind of already saw how, they relied on her, kind of looked to her to kind of keep them in the season that had a lot of ebbs and flows and unfortunately costing them to miss the playoffs. But I see many playoffs in her future and definitely her continuing to kind of ramp up the conversation and drawing new and favorable eyes to the WNBA. Now, while Beckers might miss the playoffs this upcoming season or during this season, we have a number of teams that clearly did not miss. So we're going to get into some playoff previews and break down what to look for ahead here on Respect Her Game. Don't go anywhere. Stay with us on the other side of this quick break. Welcome back into Respect Her Game. Kasey, Hudson, and Natalie, Noury now giving you that playoff preview I teased right before the break. And the cool part about seeing the growth of the WNBA, but more importantly, the new format for the playoffs, is kind of seeing that there's teams that you knew were going to make the postseason. It was a lock a couple weeks ago, if not a couple months ago. But then there's some new faces that get into the mix. That's right, the Valkyries, who, well, by expectation, were not banked on making the postseason, at least in the beginning. We just had high hopes for the infrastructure of this team. We thought that the marketing did a great job on pulling fans in and teaming up and collaborating with other teams and leagues around the Valkyrie, but I would say all of that played a big role into pushing them over the hump and making sure that they saw a postseason in their first franchise or inaugural season, as one puts it better. Kayla Thornton and company looking to shake things up versus the Minnesota Lynx. I don't even know where to start with this one, but aside from the fact of how exciting it is to just see that a new team can go in and make a statement right off the jump, right, Nat?
Yeah, I mean, this is like, correct me if I'm wrong, but Vegas did the same exact thing essentially, right? Vegas Golden Knights, as soon as they became a team in the NHL, they went all the way, right? It was like, what a way to collect as many fans as possible, but then like creating a team that can show you that right off the bat, they're a competitive group. So we've seen success regarding that. I think people have remained Vegas Golden Knights fans because of that, but also, the accessibility to another team and having another team that's local to them. And I think it's just really cool to see that they're in the running, they're in the mix. Tough start for them, but you know what? I mean, they've shown that they can be competitive and, it doesn't matter where they've come from. They're focused on the next one. And I think that's a pretty cool, I don't know. I always root for the underdog. So for me, it's kind of like, oh yeah, let's see how far they can go.
Yeah, I am an underdog cheerleader as well. So one more thing for us to have in common, which I love. But you made a great point, too, to just say like a bit of a shaky start. And of course, we're going to be like, hey, they're new to the scene. They've got to get familiarized with one another. They've got to find their chemistry, their synergy, all the fun words that one can throw at this. But I think what they also did so well to make them competitive is their ability to adjust. I mean, whoever can be more agile, whoever can kind of take those corrections and apply them sooner rather than later, you're going to find them in the mix. And that's what the Valkyrie did so well. What a great test to go against the Lynx also. We always note kind of like Nafisi Collier and what she does and brings to the table, but the team as a whole, really good balance in terms of distributing offensively and protecting defensively. So I feel like if nothing else, the Valkyrie are going to get a really good taste of what it's like to compete in the postseason and not only compete, but maybe possibly potentially prevail. You mentioned while we were chit-chatting during the break there that there's a new format for this postseason that's coming in differently. I see best of three for the first round. What else did you see in here?
So the second round would be a best of 5, and then semifinals best of 7. And this is interesting because it's like a different test at each level you get to. And they're coming off of a 44-game regular season, which I believe is the most that they've played in a regular season. And I think that's great because it makes the season longer. And I don't know. I think this is a good test because, I don't know, this is one of the things that I don't particularly like or understand about women's sports is why the seasons have to be a little more abbreviated than the men's seasons. And, there's all kinds of studies and opinions out there about this, but I think if they want to be, treated equally, I feel like, okay, then let's take it as far as it can go. I know that, there's probably different things that can kind of challenge that. But at the same time, it's like these seasons are so short and I want more of it. So I think
Yes.
for, there to be more games, more accessibility to seeing like the takeover tour games that the PWHL does, I think this upcoming season, they're going to have 16 as opposed to 9 they had last year. So it's, let's get this game in front of more eyes. Let's make the season longer. Let's see, of course the exhaustion plays in and all that, but I don't know. I'd like to see more. And I think it's cool that the WNBA has adopted a little different way of doing things.
Yeah, and hopefully they will continue to build off of that and we'll see more in the next coming year. But I totally agree. Give us more games, because something else that I'm intrigued to see, I mean, I've followed the WNBA postseason for the past 2 years. And we talk about this, you and I both work a lot in hockey, how the regular season is so different from the postseason. It's almost like a new season in entirety. Yeah. So with that being said, I feel like you kind of get a little bit of that energy with the WNBA, with the seeding, and now at this 3-5-7 format. I feel like it's going to change the competition and kind of change the entire feel outside of the normal, this is the postseason, but it's going to give that whole this is a completely different season feel. Now, some other teams that we're going to get ready to look into and hear some sound from, we got the Dream taking on the Fever, as we all found out. Caitlin Clark not being able to be part of the Fever's season or the rest of the season, but they showed that next woman up mentality in a number of ways. Let's take a listen here to Lexley Hall as she spoke about the physicality it takes to compete in playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, I think we knew coming in it's playoffs, it's going to be physical, and we're going to have to learn how to play with that, especially this team is inherently a physical team. So for us, knowing that's the case and being able to respond, I think there's things that we're able to watch and film on how to handle that better, not letting the refs determine, how that physically is impacting us, but just continuing to play through that. It's definitely something we're going to have to work on and watch film and get better at, but that's part of playoffs, and that's part of the thing that we're going to have to get better at moving forward in the series.
I like the confidence of them, leaning into the physical identity, because we saw, of course, there was just so much media around Sophie Cunningham and, of course, Caitlin Clark and the number of things that took place and some of the clapbacks at refs throughout the year. But you almost were concerned that the physical identity was going to change for the Fever without a Cunningham in the mix, who we were kind of classifying as Caitlin Clark's protector. But I feel like being physical, being a strong team in that sense is kind of a postseason need to check, regardless of what the league is, what the sport is. Would you say?
Yeah, I mean, physicality is a huge part of this game. And I think it's kind of funny, like when a team does play physical, I feel like in a way it draws eyes, at least my eyes, to the sport. Like I was always a fan of the fighter on hockey teams. I knew who Sophie Cunningham was because of what she was doing. And it was almost kind of like, wow, she can get into it. You know what I mean? And of course, there's a clean way to be physical. There's a retaliatory way to be physical. But I think you can play physically with finesse and you can accomplish the goal that you're trying to achieve. So I think, postseason, that's when you empty the gas tanks, and you have to remember to do it in a clean way. You have to remember to not overexhaust yourself, but it's a new season. You have to be a different kind of competitive at this point in the year, and physicality certainly plays into that. That's what I think.
100%. Again, you and I lockstep. Now, while they might not feel like physicality is a weakness of theirs, as a matter of fact, they feel like it is a strength of theirs. Coach White had some thoughts on where they may have had some potential weaknesses.
The fouls. I mean, I think we get momentum, and then there's 4 or 5 foul calls in a row, and they get some opportunities. I think it stopped the flow of the game. It didn't allow us to get up and down in transition. I think that their physicality took us out of our rhythm. I don't know who that is.
Excuse me, Mike. Here, let me put them up. Excuse me.
It took us out of our rhythm sometimes. The ball didn't move quite as much. But the games are at this time of the year especially, but mostly all the time, it's the margins. 18 second chance points. Their ability to outscore us from the 3-point line, and they're going to get some because they're a really good 3-point shooting team. It's the ones where we're overhelping or we're losing our guy. We're in rotation when we don't need to be. We're not closed up. We're not aggressive in our switches. All of those things. They're fast. They're long. They make you work throughout entire possessions. Offensive rebounds that we gave up at end of clocks, or when we played really good defense. So. It's a lot of little things. I like where we are. I'm proud of our group for continuing to fight, and we're going to be better on Tuesday.
Hey, they've shown that they can fight. They've shown that no matter how many injuries kind of inflict their lineup, that they have the ability to somehow pull through. And that's going to cause you to kind of re-identify yourselves as you continue to go through those different adversities. And losing top players to injuries, like that actually is a little bit more hard to work around than kind of noted for. So I have some faith here in what the Fever have shown thus far. Now, as for the Dream side of things, they might not be worrying too much about physicality, maybe not yet, or the margins or the weak spots. They are vibing or thriving off of fan support. Take a listen to Hillman here about the fans.
I think that our fans definitely came in and put an emphasis on cheering for us loud, and I think that they did make a little bit of a difference when we went on our runs. It's always great to have a home game where we're appreciative, and I think that we were just excited to be in this environment, knowing that, you have to make sure you protect home court, and I think that the environment today was great.
All right, Natalie, we've been around the coaches, we've been around the athletes, and one media question that always comes up is about that home advantage. Home field, home court, home pitch, home ice. Yeah. How much do you feel like you've either heard or like you personally feel like, home is an advantage to make sure that they have the ability to maybe not only secure some wins, but kind of get ahead or catch an edge?
Yeah, I mean, home court, home field advantage, home ice advantage. It is truly like you have an extra player with you, with just the environment. I feel like that's what I've heard from a lot of the teams. It's just like goaltenders or something will talk about the fans behind them. You don't quite listen to them, but they're there. And also, I feel like it's an incentive to play with a little more grit, because it's like, we're at home. We need to, win for our crowd. We need to win for our pride. I think that plays into it quite a bit. You don't want to lose on your home court. You know what I mean? So I think it's just like having that atmosphere, having that crowd with you, behind you. It does feel like an extra player on the court with you. It does feel like an extra player on the team just pushing you along. And I mean, what a fun atmosphere too. I'm sure you're dialed in as an athlete, but like when you've got your environment working with you, I mean, it's got to kind of pump you up a little more. That's what I would think, at least.
Yeah, I would feel like those moments that you can't get the quotes, like we love going through your head because you only have seconds to kind of really kind of get that tunnel vision going. The fan push, that home advantage, that's probably where something like that comes into a nice little tilt. And plus, for the Dream, they're probably hoping for that extra push in the second and fourth quarters. Let's take a listen to the Dream coach right here.
Well, I think Indiana's really good offensively. They play with a lot of pace. They're flying around. They really put some pressure on your help defense. And I just thought in the second quarter, we kind of settled in and, we forced a lot more tough shots and we forced a few more turnovers in the second quarter. And we really needed it because, the first 5 minutes was a little bit rough. And then we started to make a little comeback before the end of the quarter. And I thought we kind of asserted ourselves in the second quarter and gave us a little bit of a lead going into the half. But then we come out in the third quarter and within a minute or two, all that lead that we built was gone just like that. This is a tough team. They're really talented. They're really well coached. So we know we're going to have to play really well to win another game in the series.
Competition stays hot. That's what makes the postseason. So we'll see how these games continue to roll out. Now, another matchup coming down the pipeline. You got the Mercury taking on the Liberty. The Liberty being those fans that want to make sure that they're in the seats to watch these kind of intense matchups and these exciting games. Now, Breanna Stewart injury update. Liberty star knee leaves game one because of a knee injury or situation. And then Mercury in overtime will be the team to kind of continue to push the pavement here. You see stars go down all the time, especially in these tight contests in the postseason. But more importantly, this is where you kind of see where the better team comes in hand, because we talk so much about depth or like, what do you have on your bench? And I feel like these are one of those matchups where depth is really going to have to kind of correlate whether the Liberty can edge out or whether the Mercury will come through and keep things uncomfortable. A lot of fans rooting for the Liberty, but let's just go with the basis of Sabrina Ionescu, I wanted to make sure I said her name correctly, speaks to how much her experience took over in the overtime matchup. Let's take a listen right here.
A lot. I think we looked around and kind of realized we'd kind of been in that position before with the majority of us. Just understanding how important overtime is and knowing we had another gear to get to and I'm really just proud of the way that we stuck together, we weathered the runs that they went on, and ultimately found a way to win.
Not be denied. I feel like you just have the mental muscle to keep pushing yourself and your team through the discomfort of, the team challenging you back or answering everything that you deliver, responding to everything that you deliver. How much have you seen experience just kind of play in favor of teams that you've probably covered over time?
Yeah, I mean, actually, a point that you mentioned earlier that I was thinking about is just this, like, the injury mentality and like losing people and staying ready. This is something I wanted to bring up, is I feel like one of the hardest positions to be is like a backup or a bench player, because it's like no matter how much you practice, if you don't get in games a lot, it's one of those things where it's like all of a sudden you lose someone, you got to make sure that you're mentally engaged and physically ready to go in there and get the job done. And I think that can be a really difficult thing, because it's like, I feel like half the battle for quite a few people in whatever line of work they're in is the mental part, staying engaged when you might be discouraged, staying engaged when you feel like you're not directly contributing, but you are a piece, you are a cog in the engine, and, you help this team get to where it needs to go. So I don't know, I was thinking about that as you were speaking earlier, and I just think, it's that time of year, but, next woman up mentality, as you mentioned earlier, for sure.
Yeah, and even though there's an expectation to it, of course, you've got to stay ready. It's still way easier said than it is done, because to take it to a whole nother extreme, leave it to me to do that, is that it also depends on the athlete. I remember like growing up playing soccer and like doing gymnastics and cheerleading. We used to talk a lot about like the different, how do you respond to your skill set? Are you an intuitive athlete? Are you kind of like a reps and repetition athlete? Like, do you have to work on something over and over and over again so that it becomes second nature and second thought when you're applying action to it? And I feel like that kind of correlates to bench players or depth, because you can take the mental reps and sometimes that actually helps people perform better. But if you're an intuitive player, mental reps work better for you because you just have to get the touch. You just have to get the feel. You got to get into the movement of something. Or if you're somebody of repetition, like getting those real in the moment reps, it's going to take you a little bit more time to kind of get a rhythm and get a momentum, and doing it in such an impactful moment as like, here's your opportunity, take it. It's going to feel way different. So at least that's something I could speak to as a coach. Would you say that you're a reps person or like an intuitive person?
Oh gosh, reps early on, intuitive now. I think it's like the more experienced you are, which kind of goes to Sabrina's point, is like you kind of go in there and you just go based on what your gut's telling you, what your instincts, what your reactions are telling you. Early on, it's about reps, because it's like, let's get the experience. Let's see how I'm supposed to act when things go right or wrong. And now it's at the point where it's like, okay, let's just go in there and rely on the toolbox and the skill set to get you through. So that's an interesting point. I mean, the mental reps thing is huge too. I see a lot of backup goaltenders doing that. In the PWHL, I remember Anne-Renee Desbiens was out. She got injured, ran into like halfway through a game, and the whole time I had the backup goaltender from Montreal to my right, and we were kind of sharing the same TV monitor because she wanted to see what was going on the TV, and I could see her head bobbing as if she was like in the game, taking those mental reps like you're talking about.
Yes.
So you think about how dialed in these athletes are. I'm sure it's easy though, because I feel like they're the most electric benches in sports. In my brain, I love watching basketball benches. So they've always got energy. I'm sure they're always dialed in.
Yeah, because it's so fun how they kind of curate those substitution moments. A little bit more similar to soccer in terms of how they handle their sub-ins and sub-outs than most other sports. So I have respect for it in many ways. So make sure you guys are keeping a close eye for all the action for the WNBA postseason as things start to heat up. Don't forget, best of 3, best of 5, best of 7 when it comes to the finals. I promise you guys we're going to get to know Natalie and I just a wee bit more. We're going to kind of throw out some thoughts and ideas for WNBA commissioner. Yep, hang on to that one. Some games that broke our hearts. I hold some really, really intense feelings for some matchups that I got to witness live, and so much more. So don't go anywhere. Stick with us here on Respect Her Game on the other side of another quick break. Back at it with Respect Her Game. Kasey, Hudson, Natalie, Noury, and I teased, but now we are promising and delivering you guys getting to know Natalie and I just a pinch more. What better way to come together, get to know one another, than to find out the things that broke our hearts and where we would, sign up for voting people into commissioner spots. that's where we will start, Natalie. So, if you had to choose the next commissioner of the WNBA, which active player do you think would do the best job? I'm throwing you in the hot seat first.
Yes, and I when I was writing my note, I literally wrote, I was like, I'm so sorry to be basic, but I chose Caitlin Clark for this one. I just think, man, I don't know. I think it would be really cool to see her in that commissioner spot, because to see how many eyes she brought to the game as soon as she entered the league, how much more the league would certainly just draw that kind of attention if Caitlin Clark was at the helm. I think she has also been through quite a bit of adversity early on in her professional career. So I think she would have an interesting take and stance on like what to prioritize, what to brush off. I think maybe there would be some really interesting officiating talk maybe with her at the helm. But I just feel like she would bring a really interesting perspective that would, number one, bring a lot of eyes to the sport. I know I've said this too, where I'm like, I'd love to see her be a coach one day, but to be a commissioner, she might really have, I don't know, a valuable perspective to bring, just because, again, I bring that word adversity up, the injuries, the recipient of, tough officiating or tough calls or tough treatment. Everybody's got their opinion on it, but I'd like to hear from her and see how she'd like to run the league. So I think that would be kind of cool.
I feel like you did a great job of not making that a basic answer, but it's true. She'd be an advocate for players, and she's shown that. So I think a lot of players would feel, I don't know, a big deep breath with her at the helm, helping out. I'm pivoting to one of her teammates. I'm going to take Aaliyah Boston. I like the fact that we are learning so much more about a lot of her business endeavors and the ability to kind of have any sort of hand in, certain stocks or team ownership. For instance, Boston Legacy, she joined the ownership group this year, as a matter of fact. So to be able to have like a bit of an ownership part of your resume, and then to be a part of huge endorsement deals, knowing how you have to carry yourself and knowing how you have to articulate and kind of communicate yourself between the brand, the marketing, and all of those kind of different requirements on you. She's shown to be really good with that. She's a part of Adidas. She's a part of Affleck. She's a part of the American Express, all the commercials, but a lot of the planning and strategy for the marketing. I mean, to make the marketing more fun, having an understanding of what the players need, having an understanding of the marketing aspect, and then being able to have your hand in the ownership pool. I feel like she kind of touches the trifecta of being able to operate as a commissioner. So she was an interesting one to me, and she's kind of alluded on different podcasts how this is just the beginning of some of her endeavors. So I'm just like, all right, she's going to be going all the way in when it comes to the business aspect of things, and I think she's got a great personality on top of it. Yeah, maybe they can attack it together. They're already teammates for one, so they could add more from the top. So much value.
I mean, no, I love that, because it's like one of the jobs of the commissioner is to make sure like your athletes, the fans, and everyone are heard. I don't know grammatically what that sentence is. Make sure people are heard. So I think, Aaliyah Boston having such, involvement and ownership already. I mean, she's got the tangible credentials. So it's a good suggestion, Kasey. I like that.
There we go. We both did good. So that's the good start. We're slowly getting into where things have broken Natalie and I's hearts. But this one, which I'm probably gonna lean on you a little bit more here, with the MLB playoffs right around the corner, try to predict the World Series matchup and who will win. This one stressed me out. I'm not gonna lie. I had to ask too many questions. I know, because come on, we're in Boston and we're proud of that. You're a local. I've really dove into the New England experience, the fans, the everything that encompasses Boston. I'm all in. I'm bought in. And we both probably really, 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 really wanted to put Red Sox, but neither of us did. So I threw.
I think it's hilarious.
I know it was tough. I put you in the hot seat for the first one. I will just go off the deep end here. I went Brewers, and then I danced around the idea of the Yankees, because I don't trust them. I don't like them. I will never support the Yankees, but it's just like they snuck in last year, in my personal opinion. They could maybe sneak in again. No one trusts the Blue Jays more, what I've come to hear. So it's kind of this like really tough spot of like Yankees or Tigers. And I was just kind of like, ugh, maybe. Yeah. I didn't even type out their name. I couldn't do it. So where'd you go with this one?
I was actually thinking about that too. I was looking at the Brewers and I was like, how funny would it be if like Milwaukee and Detroit were in there because just spending time in the Midwest this past weekend, I was talking to a Packers fan and he's like, we tolerate the Vikings, like in his little accent. He's like, honestly, it's not so much the Vikings anymore. I have a problem with the Bears. I have a problem with Detroit. And he was just naming all the other ones. He's like, the Vikings, we can stomach a little bit. So I almost feel like maybe baseball's the same way. I don't know. But
Milwaukee and Detroit.
It would be interesting. It'd be interesting to see them, but my final answer, just for funsies, is the Phillies versus the Yankees. And I feel like the Yankees, it's just kind of like an inevitable decision where it's like, I'd love to see them get upset. And right now, like baseball, like I've mentioned many times before, it's like it can change like that. And I'd love to see the Red Sox. I mean, first of all, the Red Sox, first winning season since 2021 here, so we're rolling. I'd love to see them make it all the way. But I don't know. Phillies, I've kind of like the Phillies. I feel like they're kind of like my second favorite team in the league. So I just go for them because I think they've got some good personalities. I like Max Kepler from the Twins. I mean, they're just fun to watch. So I'm not like super educated on these other teams because I'm a diehard Red Sox, you know me. But I think my guess is Phillies, Yankees, and we will see how that goes.
All right. I can support that. And neither of us chose the Yankees to win. I took the Brewers if it came down to it. You took the Phillies if it came down to it. So we're doing our best not to support them, Boston. We promise. But look, Red Sox, just give us a little bit more hope to put your name in that category. Yeah. Now, from the hopeful down to the doom and gloom, because we do have to get to this one. If you could go back and change the results of just one game, which game would you pick and why? Natalie, I'll defer to you.
Yes. So I feel like I have a little bit of like trauma memories from this one. I'm going just round one in general, round one of the 2023 Stanley Cup playoffs. Bruins win versus Panthers. This was the season they won the President's Trophy, which we know is a curse, but we were all like, they were up 3-1 in the series. If we could only change, that final game. This is one game, like, I love sports very, very much, but like, I don't know. It was one of the first times that I actually felt myself tear up on the drive home because I was like, man, there was so much potential there. And like, I know the last time the Bruins won, it was such a pivotal point in my life and my career that helped me choose this career path that I was like, I want to see them do it again. I was like, come on, just go. I feel like that was one of the more painful games that I've watched in my life. And I don't know. I just feel like since then, the Bruins have got some work to do. And you've done a lot of talking on the Hockey Hub with Sophia and our Bruins colleagues. But I don't know. Since then, my heart's been broken, Kasey. I'll say that. How about you?
Yes, and you're ready for the Bruins to seal it back together. Hockey broke my heart as well. And this is not the first time, and I'm sure it won't be the last. But it has left a really bad taste in my mouth. I had to take it to basically game 6 of the Lightning versus the Colorado Avalanche just a couple years ago. This is where the Tampa Bay Lightning had an opportunity to three-peat, to win back to back to back. And from the jump, it just felt like they were chasing this opportunity. The Avalanche come and take it in overtime. Then they put a complete shutout beating of 7-0 in game 2. At that point, I was just like, let's call it. I don't want to watch any more hockey. I'm very much over this. Lightning bounced back into it, put up 6 goals. Then I'm thinking, okay, here we go. No, Colorado take it right after that. Lightning slim chances to even have that bounce back. And then game 6, they lose 2-1, 1 goal. And I always ask people this now as a reporter, what hurts more, a blowout or something very close? And looking back at that series, I was just like, look, I would have rather been swept at that point because I couldn't handle, my heart was about to give out at the opportunity of thinking that there was an inkling of hope that the Lightning were going to do it. So that's my whole spiel with that. But then it goes one step further. Yes. Why, Kasey? Because I feel like if they would have taken that Stanley Cup versus the Colorado Avalanche, they would have humbled a very annoying Florida Panthers team that forgets that they are not the first team in the South to do anything well or do anything great or to go back to back or to be hockey paradise. Everything that they keep trying to coin, You didn't do it first. And I feel like that would have been more obvious if only the Lightning would have beat the Colorado Avalanche. What's funny is one of my best friend's husbands was the goaltender for that team. And so we had a huge rivalry going on where I was like, look, we can't exactly be good friends right now because I am rooting for the demise of your husband. But one day. One day. As long as the Florida Panthers don't win the Stanley Cup Finals again, I think that I'll start to kind of come off my heartbreak just a bit more.
Yeah, I mean, you know what? I've learned to appreciate the Panthers at this point. I've learned to appreciate the Lightning, as nauseating as like both teams have become to me over the years. I'm sorry, but yeah, I mean, it's like after a while, it's like let's come on, get San Jose in the mix. I'd like to see, you know, the Capitals with Ryan Leonard, like get some of these other teams going. Yes, not the first heartbreak, not the last heartbreak, but that's why we love sports, right? It's intoxicating, keeps us going.
It is. It makes sure that your heart is as strong as one hopes it can be. That's for sure. If you could have season tickets, affordable season tickets, one should say, to any women's sports team in the world, which team are you choosing and why? I'll defer to you again on this one.
Yeah, I had a hard time thinking about this one because I was just like, you know, what do I think I'm really going to enjoy? And I think for me, like, PWHL would be cool, although like the logistical side of my brain is like, okay, they're still working on some venues. They're still working on their in-game presentation show. So I'm going to go for a team that's a little more established and has a little more visibility right now, Indiana Fever. I would love to go to a Fever game. I'd love to take my dad to a game, Caitlin Clark when she's healthy. I'm going to say I'd love to see her play. Maybe I'm a bandwagoner. Call me that. I'm fine. I still want to go see her play. And I think that would be a really cool event if you were just like, I don't know, living around Indiana saying like, hey, you want to go to the game tonight? Let's do it. I don't think anybody would really say no. You know what I mean? So I think that would
100%.
be a cool one.
No, actually, to support what you're saying, Ante Campbell, who is a host on Hold My Banner, he's talked about basically the basketball culture in Indiana. And they kind of have that really cool crossover in terms of like the Pacers making their finale run. And then, of course, the Fever getting things going and just like the way that fans show up. Period. So he was basically just describing how cool of an atmosphere, but how big the basketball culture and support is there. So definitely goes on the bucket list of just atmospheres that you want to be in and cultures that you want to experience. I am basic, and I went basic. I chose NWSL, and then our great producer Trevor was like, "Can you pick a team, please?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, sure. That's not hard." But it's not. The Orlando Pride. I had the opportunity to cover the Orlando Pride and Orlando City Soccer Club for some time when I was wrapping up school in Central Florida. And then, of course, both clubs are right there. But like the iconic 2018 team that had Ashlyn Harris as a goaltender, which she is just phenomenal. And then you had two of my favorites, of course, Alex Morgan. I've told the story about Long Live 13. I have it tattooed. I wore the number whenever it was accessible to me throughout my soccer career. And then Cindy LaRue, who I still just hold on like the best pedestal possible. So yes, I get that that was like a team years ago, guys. I'm aware, but I would have died for season tickets if I wasn't in the media aspect to watch this team day in and day out. If I had to pick today, I mean, the Washington Spirit, really cool team to probably keep track of, young team, but they're definitely on the rise of being a disruptive and a championship caliber team for years to come. And then San Diego Wave, I just kind of am holding out hope that Alex Morgan is somehow going to become a part of either the broadcast team, the coaching team, some part of it, and just her perspective and guidance and the way that she inspires every player on that team. Like, I'd love to watch them day in and day out. So I took it to soccer, but of course,
like 3 different teams.
Exactly, and then 3 different teams. I still was not decisive enough to say just this team. Fantastic. Now, a little bit more decisiveness from both of us in this last one. If you got to play the entire game, which women's pro league do you think you have the best chance in scoring in?
Well, I mean, I've seen you on ice, Kasey, only on social media. I don't know what the PWHL and Kasey Hudson would look like, but we were both soccer players growing up. I think if I had the best chance, it would be soccer. I don't think my skills are what they were. I did try to score goals back in the day. It was usually a midfielder or a striker. So that was my mentality. I think I would, I don't know, I never had the best foot skill, but drop the shoulder, get the ball, and then run with it. That was my tactic.
You were physical. I love it. And we actually both chose the NWSL here because we both have soccer backgrounds. So they asked for the best chance. That is the best chance. I would totally give it a go with PWHL, though. Like, I think that was just something that I would aspire to challenge myself at. Exactly. We'll see. Maybe more footage of Kasey staying upright on the ice coming at you guys here on Respect Your Game. But we got to talk about the women that actually have real potential. That is our Girl on Fire segment. On the other side of this break, don't go anywhere. Stay with us here on Respect Your Game. If only I had the confidence to open up singing Girl on Fire, but I will not do that to our audiences. I put our audience through enough as is. Natalie, we finally have time for some Girl on Fire. Who are you giving a shout out to as we wrap up Respect Your Game?
I'm shouting out Mr. JJ McCarthy's fiance, Katya. She just gave birth to their beautiful little boy, Rome, on Friday, September 12th. It's crazy. JJ went to meetings on Thursday and then left the team to go be with his fiance. And on Friday, he was a dad. Sunday, he was back out there competing. So just a brief shout out to Katya, my girl on fire. Congratulations on the birth of your child. And you know what? I'm always a supporter of the moms out there. So I'm excited to see this little one grow up. How about you?
I love it. It's a quick life adjustment, so you got to give it the credit that it deserves and the love. So much love involved. Mine's a quick one. Carly Arsay Gordon. We know that the Arsay sisters took over once their father passed away, making sure that they were managing all things for the Colts. But look, I thought it was pretty bad, as we all know, that she was on the sidelines, headphones on. She's a part of the play calling. She was giving advice to coaches, and it seems like the feedback and the reception of it was very positive. So just to be able to see her step into that role and to kind of silence any questions in terms of team direction with their father passing away, that's a lot of pressure. And there's so many outside opinions, and there's so much noise telling you what you can and cannot do. So look, Colts are doing some pretty good things in the middle of kind of trying to figure out where their team is heading. So to be able to step into those shoes and to do so in such a commanding, confident, and really sick manner, I just have to give her flowers. So those are our girls on fire, both very worthy of getting a spotlight for this closing segment. But as you guys know, Respect Your Game is here every Monday, 2 to 3 p.m. here on Nessa Nation. Don't miss an episode as we continue to dive in and unpack WNBA postseason and all things going on in women's sports. Until next time, guys.